In your orange folder there, it's behind the user's manual on the right-hand side. There's a best practices guide that we created. And as I go through and I talk about this, keep in mind that we've contracted with you guys as independent contractors. So, in doing so, we're acknowledging that you're experts in this field. You know what you're doing. We're confident in that. We know that you've been successful tutors. But at the same time, we wanted to kind of just provide a little bit of guidance so that you can kind of get an understanding of what we think is exceptional tutoring practices and what we would like to see happen, kind of just in general, and then some specific ways that you could do that. If you're like, well, gee, I don't know how I would, go about communicating with the parent about certain things. Well, we've given some suggestions for that. These are suggestions. They are not, you do not have to do every single thing that's in here. If you do every single thing that's in here, we're confident that, you'll end up providing excellent instruction to the students and that the parents will be very happy. A lot of you probably do all of these things anyway when you tutor. You may have your own ways of doing it. You may have your own forms that you already use to document things. That's fine. If you don't, we provided some examples for you just to make things easier. It might look like a lot when you're looking at it. It's not meant to overwhelm you or make you think, my goodness, these people are expecting me to do all this paperwork. It's not like that at all. And I'll go through and I'll lead you through it. I actually sat down and kind of made up a student and went through some of these forms, and it took me 15 minutes to come up with the things that we're suggesting that you do. So it's not going to create an additional amount of preparation time for you, or it shouldn't at least. Basically, the things that we want to make sure that you're doing is that you're communicating with us, with parents, with students' teachers when possible and when appropriate, that you're assessing the students. Assessment should be an ongoing part of tutoring all the time, because that's how you know whether or not what you're doing is creating the results that you're hoping for. Planning, being adequately prepared and aligning the things that you're doing with that student with the school's curriculum. And then documenting all of these things. It's important for you to keep track of all of that so that if in some event a parent has a complaint or says that, we've been with this tutor for this long and, my student's not making any progress. If you're documenting all the things that you're doing, then, you can have something to show for that to say, well, this is what I'm doing and I have proof of that here. And then motivation, we want to make sure that we're actively doing things to help students enjoy learning. So I just want to go through kind of the things that are in this guide that are relevant for first tutoring sessions, since everybody's going to be having a lot of those in the beginning. As far as communication goes, you're going to get an email from the site once the session is scheduled, and we talked about the information that's going to be in that email. We would like for you to use that information to make content with the parent before you go to the home. That's going to be in the best interest of everything. Make the parent feel more comfortable with you. It'll give you a background on the student and the family so that you can better prepare for the session. And that's all in the guide as well. You might want to review the terms of service with the parent. Make sure that they know that they have to be present the entire time. That you're not going to be babysitting their child so that they can run to the grocery store while you're tutoring. That's not the way things are going to work. And establish a positive rapport with them so that they can feel comfortable about the interaction you're going to have. And again, document that you contacted them so that you have proof of that. You should always be assessing, hopefully, during that first tutoring session. Use that information when you call the parent on the phone or when you contact them over email before you go for that first session to prepare some sort of assessment to help determine the skill level that that child is currently at. It does not have to be any sort of formal assessment. If you have access to that sort of thing and you're able to do that, that's fantastic. It could be just something that you make up on your own. It could be something that you find on our resources page that we'll be adding more and more things to help you out in that aspect as well on the site. And then
use the student's material also to, as an assessment.
Right, absolutely.
Chapter review, something like that. So don't think you have to
look at samples of their work, and you can be able to when you talk to the parent before you go, you'll be able to determine kind of what is appropriate for you to assess. If the student needs help with writing, well, do they have samples of the student's writing that you can look through and go through with the student? If they do, then that's less that you maybe have to bring with you. If they don't, then you might need to prepare something. So it really just depends on each individual situation. So that's why these are really broad guidelines, because depending on the family, it's going to change So we tried to leave everything really open for you so that you could tailor your planning and assessment and instruction to each specific student. As far as planning goes for that first tutoring session, you want to make sure that you allow time to really talk with the student and the parents and establish a comfort level with them. But be prepared with some sort of instructional thing that you're going to do with that student, whether it's giving them some type of sit-down assessment, whether it's, you know, going over some homework problems with them, something. Keep in mind the parent is paying for that first session. I know a lot of you, maybe when you tutor privately, maybe have done this first session free, so they get, you know, we're not doing that. So you need to make them feel as though, you know, they're getting their money's worth for what you're there for. So in addition to, you know, it shouldn't just be a feel good, get to know you kind of a thing. You should, you know, plan on working that very first session. But while you're doing that, make sure that you're taking time to establish a rapport and to learn about the student and figure out what are their interests, what are their strengths, what are their learning styles that they're comfortable with, because that's going to help you in the future. And again, it can't hurt to document that too.